let's get into it here with Washington State, the number 13th ranked Cougars going into UCLA. How about that? UCLA is still 3-1, but it's Washington State making the noise now after the win. UCLA allowing just 11 points per game so far this season with an okay schedule, I'd say, so far. But, man, with Moore, he just hasn't looked. You think that Moore will probably develop. Look, they're starting him young, right? He can get the job done, I would guess, as far as early on here. This might be a little bit tougher because you got Washington State. They're coming in not only 4-0 but 3-1 against the spread so far, averaging 27.5 points per game. They are allowing. Averaging 45 points per game, of course, Washington State, and allowing 25.5 points per game so far. Bruins averaging 32 points per game. Washington State off the exciting 38-35 win over Oregon State as a 3-point dog. That was impressive. And Ward looking pretty good, but I don't know, on the road here, maybe this Bruins defense, like I said, you look at the schedule so far for the Bruins, and yeah, they lost that game to Utah and could only manage 7 points, but that was at Utah. I'm going to cut them a little bit of slack. Of course, they rocked in North Carolina Central. They rocked San Diego State for a cover. They did not get the money in that opener against Coastal. Thomas Lewis will take the points in this one. And Burley said this will be a good one. He's got Washington State to cover the spread. And with them getting the points, that might be a popular option here, but I would feel like the Bruins are favored for a reason. Washington State, of course, they won and covered against Wisconsin. Somehow they were a dog in that game. I guess that's before we knew who they were. They also hammered Colorado State, who's come up with some good results so far. But being able to beat Oregon State in that big matchup last week, I don't want to say it's a letdown. You're never going to let down here playing against the UCLA, but look at this total and how it has dropped so far. I'll bring up the latest line. Not that there's going to be as much movement. I just entered these lines in during the football game last night, so I don't expect any movement here. 3.5 and 60. Oh, see, caught me. It's gone up to 60. I'll grade it at 59.5 because my play is going to be on the under. In this game. Look, I think you look at it. Look, when Washington State was up against Wisconsin, that one was 53 points. UCLA, look, I think their defense at the Pac-12 level is going to be pretty okay. And you see the total. When we were on that show on Sunday, the circle line got hammered immediately. They obviously made a mistake there. They opened it at 67.5. I think the general opener now has pretty much been where that move went to, was at 60. So I still like the under. I'm not even gonna consider like I missed the best number on 67.5. They made a mistake. They took a bet. No big deal. I'm still going under 59.5, even if it's back up to 60. UCLA, I think they have the better defense here, certainly in this game. I think it's fair to say Washington State with Ward is the better offense. Thomas does like it under as well, but Washington State got to come in here on the road. Yeah, UCLA doesn't have a big time home field advantage anymore. It's not a big deal to go into the Rose Bowl and face a crazy crowd or anything, but still, you got to come to Southern California and play the Bruins. And I'm going to take the under here. UCLA gets a little bit done. Whether or not they get the money, that's for another show or another pick. You'll might have to subscribe to the picks to get the premium on this one. But I'm going to go under here with the Bruins against the Cougars. The Syracuse Orange are going to take on North Carolina in this one. Syracuse comes in 4-1, 3-1 against the spread so far for the Orange. Of course, Carolina comes in with a perfect record so far, 4-0, 3-1 against the spread. You got May, of course, for Carolina here in this one. Schrader for Syracuse. And let's see here. Get my notes together and get your comments going in this one. Here's already North Carolina for Thomas. He's got his handicap, and I haven't even started on mine yet. But for Syracuse, certainly in that game against Clemson, they finally took it on the chin. They really were no match, it seemed like, in the end for Clemson. They were one of the most popular plays for handicappers last week, but like Burley said, they just shrunk up like the pretender that they were and made Clemson look like Clemson a little bit again. Before that, they were rolling. I mean, they covered spreads. Well, they pushed actually against Army, so maybe we should have saw it coming. They covered against Colgate. They covered against Western Michigan. They covered against Purdue. Then they pushed against Army, and then, of course, lost. So, as far as North Carolina's game against Pittsburgh, they did a nice job there, certainly covering that number, winning 41-24, covering 7 points, and before that they routed Minnesota at home. Now they did fail against Appalachian State as a pretty big favorite, but man, that probably was just, always going to be overvaluing a matchup like that, Syracuse against Appalachian State, where we know the Appalachian State can always come in and play you pretty tough. They also covered against South Carolina, remember, in that neutral field game, but they were favored in that one. So a 3-1-1 spread record is certainly pretty impressive so far for the Heels. And now favored here by 8, and the total is up to 60. Okay. I guess I was wrong about these totals not moving in the last 12 hours or so. But that total is now at 60. These two teams haven't met in 3 seasons. North Carolina earned a 31-6 victory, got the number back in 2020 at home against Syracuse. I think defensively, Syracuse the better team defensively. I think maybe the one area North Carolina's their pass defense is okay. They give up some gains, but they do stop you from catching the ball as far as percentage wise, right? I mean, as far as offenses are concerned, I don't know. I think these two teams. Look, May is going to be better, right? As far as the passing offense is concerned and all the passing numbers, but Syracuse has the better rushing attack so far. But penalties, Syracuse averaging 80 yards in penalties so far per game. Syracuse is still averaging 272 yards. Now, maybe they've had a little bit of a yards passing. Maybe they've had a little bit of a weaker schedule here. But if the total, I've moved it up to 60, that's probably where I'm headed. I'm going to go over in Syracuse and North Carolina here. Probably not getting the best price. I show on that show that we had on Sunday. It's at 2 Eastern and 11 Pacific when I cover all of the opening lines from the circa and the initial line move, which usually happens within 5 minutes. So when they pop those numbers up, they're already showing the latest move. This one opened 56.5. It was bet up to 57.5. Then it was 58.5. Now it's 50. Now it's 60. So I've got to give it out as a free play here on the show. I think this one's getting away from me here on a Tuesday. And I'll go over with Syracuse and North Carolina over 60. Thomas Lewis says he'll buy Carolina down here to a more playable number, especially now. What did I say it is? 8? Yep. Definitely would look to buy it down if I'm looking to play Carolina. Circa opened at 7.5. I did see it go down as low as 6.5, but now we're dealing with this 8 here. So always get it down to at least a realistic number. You guys know what the numbers are. 7 doesn't sound terrible. If you're taking North Carolina, I'm not tipping my hand here in this one. Just give me the over with Syracuse and North Carolina on Saturday. All right, we just talked about the Clemson Tigers. Do I have this right here? Let me make sure I got this game right. Yeah, Clemson and Wake Forest in this one, and Clemson 21-point favorite, and the total 52. So you're looking at like a 35-14, 38-14, 38-17, 38-14, 35-14, right in there somewhere. You're going to have to decide which way it's going to go, I would think. Now, is Clemson really back to Clemson? I guess 21 is more reflective of the new Clemson and the current Wake Forest, and maybe getting back to Clemson being so heavily favored in games currently, right? Because we know that Clemson right now is not the same. You look at when these two teams played last year, and Clemson, they were just an 8-point favorite on the road and won 51-45. So Wake Forest had a good day. They got the money in that one. The total in that game was 57.5. In 2021, this matchup also went over. The teams combined for 75 points, and they went over 57. And Clemson got the money. They were only laying 3.5 in that one. Now, back in the day when Clemson was rolling, they would be favored by, like 35 points. And Wake did get the money at home when getting 34.5, but the prior season, now we're dealing back pre-pandemic, however, but Clemson rolled 52-3, but that was in 2019. So I think we can all agree things have changed here a little bit in this series. The expectations from Clemson at minus 21 here now. So I'm sorry. Did I say, is it 21? Did I get it right? Sorry, you guys. Yeah, 335, 336, minus 21. So Circa opened this game 20.5. And I did see numbers. The look ahead was actually much lower than this. So you're actually laying a little bit of tax here with Clemson. It's not real comfortable for me. I want to take Clemson, but I would think that Wake Forest is going to, right now, I think have a tough time scoring at this point. Yeah, the passing has been okay for Wake. They are averaging 250 yards a game passing in those 4 games so far. Wake Forest, of course, they lost last week against Georgia Tech, 30-16 as 3.5-point favorites at home. So that was pretty disappointing. They also failed to cover against Old Dominion in a 3-point win. They were favored by 2 touchdowns. Now, they did cover against Vandy. covered. They were 9.5. They won by double digits, and they failed against Elon as a 30-point favorite, winning by 20. So, not great spread results so far for Wake Forest. Clemson, if anything, that was the win over Syracuse was a positive thing because it felt like everybody was on Syracuse. We're going back to old Clemson, and Clemson responded with 31 points on the road. So considering that they had to play that good Florida State team now, that 7-point loss, it doesn't look that bad. They were only getting 2 points on that day, but it looked like it was wrong, right? Because Florida State is looking so good. And Clemson did roll Florida Atlantic at home when they were favored by 25, and they won that one by 34. And here they are favored by 3 touchdowns again. I'm going to be on Clemson. So maybe the familiarity factor here, as I said, for Wake being able to cover the spread last season. But I'm going to take Clemson here to blow them out. Blow out. And Burley says here he's taking over in this one. Thomas says he's taking Clemson and the over as well. All right. Check to see if I got the line movement right here on this one. Because that look ahead, that 16.5 look ahead, looks pretty cheap now. Man, I'm not getting a good price at all here, but I've got Clemson. I've got them shutting down Wake Forest here in this game. Let's take a look now at what else we got here. Virginia Tech going up against Florida State. Florida State here a 24-point favorite, and the total 52.5. Florida State, man, this offense is clicking. Now, at least Virginia Tech, at least they have a little bit of pass defense. They're off that win over Pittsburgh. Certainly to improve to 2-3. Good job, VT. And for Florida State, of course, the number 5 team in the country right now, coming in 4-0, 3-1 against the spread. And I don't know, it's good to have you back, Florida State. But as for Virginia Tech, to beat Pittsburgh, they were 3-point dogs in that game to the Panthers and ended up beating them 38-21. Impressive, especially coming off 3 straight losses and to Marshall, to Rutgers, to Pittsburgh. You're Virginia Tech. I mean, that's not supposed to have, you should be competitive in all those games. Virginia Tech trying to, fix things. They covered the opener against ODU. Now, for Florida State, before that Clemson loss, they defeated Boston College, remember, but they were 4 touchdown favorites nearly in that one, and won by 2 points. So they often are getting into a situation here where they're maybe just favored by too many in these games that they're supposed to win big. Now they rolled Southern Miss. I don't know if I can count that. I mean, it's Southern Miss having some issues. They did win that game against LSU. Looking back on it, and that sent up the flag and everything. But here, look, 24 points. It opened at circa 28 and was bet down to 25.5, and now 24. I like Virginia Tech. I feel like I'm missing out on the best points possible, enough to make it that I can't take it as a premium. But I want Virginia Tech here in this game. These 2 teams haven't met in 5 years. So, like I said, the one thing that Virginia Tech does enough for me is play pass defense. They're allowing just 160 yards or so per game thus far. Now, granted, you got the schedule, but I don't want to call them patsies, but Pittsburgh, Marshall, Rutgers, and Purdue. None of the teams are Florida State, obviously. But I'm going to trust Virginia Tech's pass defense here to get a little bit done. Total open 50.5, bet up to 53, now 52.5. But I'm going to take Virginia Tech plus 24 points here to be able to stay within this one against mighty Florida State. Don't get me wrong, Mike's on Florida State. Thomas says he's not scared. Give me Florida State. No, I'm not scared. Give me Virginia Tech. You're on Florida State, Thomas. No reason to be scared. Yeah, okay. Laying 24 points. I get it. I'm the one that should say I'm not scared. I'm on Virginia Tech. Because we're going up against, national title contender, Florida State. Navy here hosting North Texas. And I'm showing Navy a 6-point favorite. And the total 61.5. When we were on that Circa show, the total here in this game opened 54. And it was immediately bet up to 60.5. So they obviously whiffed on this one as well. The total now 61.5. That is a pretty stiff move from that opener. Obviously was wrong. But for me, I'm going to be on Navy here in this one. Funny, these two teams haven't met. Let me tell you about this. These two teams haven't met, so it's not about series history or anything like that. Last time they met was in 2007. But at the time, it was the highest scoring game in, I think it was, I want to say, FCS, whatever it was. It wasn't Cumberland 212. I think with both teams combined, there's been some scores higher than this since then, but Navy won the game 74-62 as a 15.5 point favorite. They did not cover the spread on that day. It was expected to be a wild game. It's not like it came out of the blue. The total was 72.5. And North Texas, the same problems plagued them then as it does now. They don't play very good defense, and with Navy in here, I would think the Navy could have some fun in this one. I'm actually going to lay some points with Navy. I think here in this one, I'm going to lay 6 points. Not based on that game. I'm making a little bit of a joke about that, but I do like Navy here. They're just 1-3 coming in thus far, and they really haven't looked good in some of these games. They did cover 12 points against Memphis in a 4-point loss, but last week got drubbed pretty good by South Florida. But for North Texas, they come in with a 2-2 record. They did not cover 16 points in the win against Abilene Christian this past week. They did win by 14, however, 45-31. Now, they did cover against Louisiana Tech on the road, getting 4.5 points in a 40-37 win, but they failed as an 11.5 point favorite at Florida International. And they also failed against Cal, remember, in the opening game of the season at home. So I think here for me, defensively for Navy, look, I think they have better pass defense to go up against Chandler Rogers. I don't think that's a huge deal here. I expect Navy to, bounce back a little bit here and get things kind of going. I think we got some plays here. Hello to Black Hall Bully here today. Nice to have you. Thomas Lewis likes Navy. And Burley likes Navy as well. I like Navy in this one. Open 5, now 6. I could easily just buy it under the 6, get it to 5.5. I did show it going as low as 4.5, but back up to the 6 now. I'm going to lay Navy here in this one. And I'm concerned about that move on the total. Actually, it may have gone a little bit too high for me, but we'll see about that. I'm not sure that's going to make the premium card as an under, but it does seem like the line's gone a little bit too high now as far as that total is concerned. Open 54, like I said, up to 60 quickly. I understand that, or at least I understand the move off of 54. Like I said, 61 and a half, but to me, it still feels like a high 50s. That's what my numbers indicate anyway, and I was already kind of wanting to trend under off of the move. No matter what, I like Navy. All right, Mike says that he likes the under. All right, Alabama and Texas A&M. I saw earlier, who was it? Burley or Thomas? Who was saying that Alabama? They've got Alabama, and I wasn't going to laugh, but they said, "Oh, Alabama and Clemson are my sleepers," right? And I was kind of like, you couldn't get away with saying that in years past, but now you could to a certain extent, right? Look, we're not going to make fun of Alabama and Clemson just yet. Like we're making more fun of Clemson, I guess, of late than we are of Alabama. That's for sure. Alabama seemed to get it back on track last week with Milroe. You wonder why they even went to my guy, uh, at quarterback. Some people said it was some type of in-house suspension type of thing, but I don't think you could do that anymore. You could just tell a guy, "Hey, you're not looking good, Brad. I'm benching you," and officially say that, even if it's some type of situation, I guess. But Alabama here comes in a 2.5-point favorite, and that's a pretty big move, actually, off the um, look-ahead line, which was as high as 7.5. Now, this one did open at circa at 3.5 when we were on the show. We mostly saw it bounce between 2.5 and 4 for the most part here. And the total right now at 49. It opened 48.5, went up to 49.5, even touched 50. The look ahead line was 54.5, but not now, not after we've seen what kind of woes Alabama has offensively. Hi, Big Scott. Nice to see you. Thank you for chiming in. Haven't heard from you, but want to make it clear that Mindy's got her own show right now, so please watch it every day at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific with midday plays. It's Mindy Hahn, Tiffany Mance, the sisters that grew up watching games with Pops, betting tickets in hand, having to listen to Pops. I could only imagine how awesome that was, actually. Not making fun of that. I love that, actually. And the sisters are together for their show, Midday Plays. And that's at 1 Eastern and 10 Pacific on the Tony's Picks channel. So, all right, Black Call Bully is going to go with Alabama in this one. I'm going with the under in this game with Alabama and North Texas. Maybe I'm actually getting a little bit 49 here for me. That's going to be good enough. But for Alabama, they did go over in the last game. It was only 46. Remember, they did put up 40 points against Mississippi State on the road. Everybody's worried, Alabama's offense, what's going on? But now, look, they still covered. They covered against Ole Miss in a 24-10 win at home. Maybe the defense is more suspect on the road, but they only allowed 3 points against South Florida. Now, they didn't cover the spread. They lost, of course, that game to Texas, and they hammered Middle Tennessee at home. So these two teams met last year. Alabama won. Alabama did not cover. They won the game 24-20 last season as a 24.5-point favorite. That's how much things. But remember, the A&M came to play in that game. A&M also covered the year before when the game was played here. Alabama was an 18.5-point favorite, and A&M won that game 41-38. So that was more high scoring. Last season, only 44 points. The game was at Alabama, but I'm going to go under here in this one. Thomas says he hasn't seen A&M just yet. They have a good run defense, that's for sure. I don't know, to a certain extent, I think their defense matches up pretty competitively with Alabama, actually. To me, the difference might be in Milroe when this one's all said and done. You're going up against Max Johnson for Texas A&M now. So I don't know how you guys grade Max Johnson, but I might lean to Milroe in that matchup actually. But more so, I think I'm going to go under here, under the 49 points in this game. Yeah, as far as what Texas A&M so far has done, they went over in that wild one, of course, last week against Arkansas in Jerry's world, 34-22 as a 6.5-point favorite. That one went well over. But before that, the game against Auburn went under, and that was here at home, 27-10. They got the money there in that one. They also went under against Monroe in a 47-3 win, but under in that game against Auburn to me might be indicative here, considering playing Alabama. A little bit of an upgrade certainly over Auburn right now. Not much, maybe, I don't know. But now I'm down laying 2.5. Pretty interesting there for Alabama. Who did say that Clemson and Alabama were, what do you call them, underdogs or sleepers? That was it. I thought that was funny because they actually might be sleepers now at this point.